Hey everybody, this video is to go over the first set of FRQs for Chapter 8 on probability and 5 steps to a 5. Now I split the two sets up based on what type of probabilities they were. So everything in this video will be questions that dealt with discrete probability distributions or normal probability distributions. So let's start off with question 3. Consider a set of 9,000 scores on a national test that is known to be approximately normal with a mean of 500 and a standard deviation of 90. So before I even go into these questions, it's always useful on the exam as you're given information to write down any information you're given. So here I'm writing down that my distribution is normal, that's the shape. I wrote down the mean, 500, that's my center, and the spread or the standard deviation is 90. I also included this sample size just in case it ends up being something about a sampling distribution. All right, so part A, what is the probability a randomly selected student has a score greater than 600? This is going to be a basic norm CDF. So what you would do is you would sketch your curve and label it. So notice my 500 in the middle, and I want the probability I get a 600 or higher. So notice I shade it to the right. So what you would type in norm CDF in the calculator is the lower bound 600, upper bound George Sink, and then my mean and standard deviation. Part B, how many scores are there between 450 and 600? So I'm looking for a number of scores here, so I'm thinking that's why I was given this 9,000, because I can find the proportion of scores, right? The proportion or the probability of scores between 450 and 600. I could do that easily with a norm CDF. So I'm going to norm CDF to figure that out and sketch my curve. There's my curve. So I want to find this area. So if I do a norm CDF to get that area or that proportion, I get 0.577. And now I got to think about those 9,000 students in this sample or that took this test. Well, to figure out how many, I multiply that by 9,000. And then rounding wise, you could round up or down. A lot of times I say to round up here. Because these would be people or scores. You can't have 0.34 of a test score. So a lot of times they'll say to round up. The AP exam, depending how you calculate this probability, shouldn't be too picky about rounding there, though. Sorry, let me just see. Rachel needs to be in the top 1% of scores to qualify for a scholarship. What's the minimum score she needs? Well, I'm given a percent here, so your brain should be screaming out or talking to yourself. You're hearing yourself talk to yourself, saying inverse normal. So inverse normal, the top 1% is up here on the right. The calculator, however, for inverse normal needs a left tail. So if this is 1%, that means this left side is 99%. So I'm going to use 0.99 in inverse normal and use the same mean, same standard deviation. And again, if your decimal, you're rounding slightly off, it should not be a big deal. So work-wise, though, as I kind of go to the next one, make sure you list all the facts about your distribution. And then a sufficient work, really, if you list those things, the shape, center, spread, usually sufficient work is just your picture that's shaded and labeled and your answer. I always include the calculator speak just in case. Let's go to another one. So these are all normal. So question 9, a normal distribution has a mean of 700 and a standard deviation of 50. The probability is 0.6 that a randomly selected term from this distribution is above x. What is x? So let's think about this. I'm given a probability and I'm asked to find an x. So again, kind of like the last one we did, this is screaming inverse normal. Okay, I don't know what x is. So I know, though, it says the probability is 0.6 above. So this 0.6 is my right tail again. The calculator only understands left tails. So in the calculator, I do an inverse normal of 0.4, and then the mean and standard deviation that were given in the problem. So I get an x value there of 687.33. All right, question 11 is not normal, but it's continuous. And it's one of those geometric shapes we talked about in class one day. So they say consider the probability density curve defined by the line y equals 2x on the interval from 0 to 1. So here I drew a little x and y axis. From 0 to 1 if I sketch in the line y equals 2x, that's where my cursor's going here. Line y equals 2x. I got to figure out, well, when is this little triangle? When am I going to get my triangle? Well, I'm going to get it if y equals 2x and x is 1, right, from 0 to 1. And if I plug a 1 in for x, that means the y value there is 2. So for this entire rectangle, just to confirm the area is 1, let me explain that. The whole big rectangle, that area is 1 because this is a triangle. And 1/2 base times height here would be 1/2 times the entire base is 1 times the height is 2. So 1/2 times 1 times 2 is 1. So this is valid. This is my probability distribution. However, I'm asked to find that the probability between 0.2 and 0.7. So I labeled 0.2 and 0.7 about, and I drew some lines up and I shaded my shape. Now in class, and I've been out of geometry a long time. You guys might be better at this than me, but the only way I could figure out is to pull out this shape, and I noticed it's a trapezoid. And I know the formula for area of a trapezoid. So what I did is I kind of pulled this shape and I put it over here on the right, and I labeled everything I knew. So for that trapezoid, when I flipped it over like a trapezoid looks, the base 1, the long base here is 1.4. I know that because if x is 0.7 and I plug it into the function, this y value, I should have labeled this point, this y value right here is going to be 1.4, right? Because I plug in 0.7 for x. So I know that length, that base 1 is 1.4. Same reasoning here. I should have labeled this point also. I know this point where my x is 0.4, because when x is 0.2, if I plug in the function on the line, that y value is 0.4. And then obviously I know my height. When I flip this over on the side, the height is 0.5 because that's the distance from 0.2 to 0.7. So if you plug in 1/2 base 1 plus base 2 times the height, I get 0.45. All right, question 12. I think we're back to normal here. These are pumpkins. Half Moon Bay, California has an annual pumpkin festival at Halloween. A prime attraction of this festival is the largest pumpkin contest. Suppose the weights of these giant pumpkins are approximately normal with a mean of 125 and a standard deviation of 18. Farmer Harv brings a pumpkin that is in the 90th percentile of all pumpkins in the contest. What is the approximate weight of Harv's pumpkin? Well, I see the word percent. And what a 90th percentile means, remember from first semester, a percentile value is a percent, or means that value, 90% of pumpkins weigh less than this. So if I sketch that in a normal curve, I'll just show you my picture here. If I sketch that in a normal curve, that's saying Harv's pumpkin, that's x here, 90% or 0.9 of the area of the normal curve is below it. So this, again, we had a couple of these already in this video, is an inverse norm. I do the inverse normal of the left tail for the given mean and given standard deviation, and a pumpkin weighing around 148 pounds is the 90th percentile. All right, last normal question, then we'll do a couple discrete. The normal random variable x has a standard deviation of 12. We also know that the probability of x is greater than 50 equals 0.9. Find the mean. So I kind of look at what I'm given here. I'm given standard deviation. That's great. I'm given a probability. I'm also given an x value, but I don't know a mean. So we've done something like this in class, and hopefully right now z-scores are kind of screaming at you. A z-score formula is x minus mu divided by sigma. Really has all of these things in it except for z. So I'm going to go and standardize here. So if we start, this is what we have right now. Let me cover it up so you can kind of go step by step with me. All right, so the information I'm given right now is that 90%, 0.9 is, oh, I think I'm backwards here. X is greater than 50. This is backwards. I should be over here. So I'm a little off here. I think I'm going to be opposite of what I need. I'll kind of fix it as I go. So probability X is greater than 50. Let me just fix it. Should have been 50 should have been here. And this should have been 0.9. Sorry, I'm writing with my mouse. So this was 50. So here I should have done an inverse norm of 0.1 instead of 0.9. Luckily for us, that just makes this negative. And let me fix that. It's me getting a z-score. So now my z, this would have been negative 1.28. And let me recalculate really quick. Negative 1.28 times 12. I subtract 50 and divide by a negative. This should be negative 65.36. Sorry for my writing. All right, those were all normal. I'm going to go back. I wanted to do discrete first, but I didn't start on that page for some reason. Let's look at some discrete examples. A few of these were discrete. So number 1 was a discrete example. Find mu of x and sigma x for the following discrete distribution. These formulas are both on the formula sheet. So I'm not going to spend any time on this. I just want you to know that they're on the formula sheet. So I can calculate the mean easily, even the standard deviation pretty easily, just knowing the formulas. Here's a little bit more difficult one. Consider both of these probability distributions, two independents, a big word here, discrete variables. Notice I've got a question marks here, and this one's easy to find. I mean, this question mark's easy to find because I know they got to add to 1. So that's going to obviously be 0.2. And then what gets a little trickier is I'm missing 2 question marks here. But I'm going to show my solution here, kind of my step-by-step. If I know they're independent, so here's me finding that first question mark. Now to get these other 2 question marks, if I know they're independent, that means the probability of x times the probability of y, or the probability of x equals 4 and y equals 3. I can multiply those if they're independent. So I know x is 4. We just found it was 0.2. So 0.2 times this question mark is going to give me 0.03. That's a pretty easy equation to solve. So I divide both sides by 0.03 and I get 0.15. Now I'm back to what I'm really good at here. I know if this is 0.15, this is 0.1, and this is 0.4. They all have to add to 1. So that final question mark is 0.35. I hope this video kind of clarifies those probability FRQs.